The horrible housing blunder. Home ownership is the West's biggest economic policy mistake. It is an obsession that undermines fairness, growth, and public faith in capitalism. Economies can suffer both sudden crashes and chronic diseases. Um, Housing markets in the rich world have caused both types of problems. $1 trillion of debt mortgages, blew up the financial system in 2007 and 8. Uh, just as, just as pernicious is the creeping dysfunction that uh, housing has caused over decades. Vibrant cities without space to grow, aging homeowners sitting in half-empty homes, keen to protect their view, and a generation of young people, uh, who cannot easily afford to buy or rent and think that capitalism has let them down. Uh, as our special report explains this week, uh, much of the blame lies with the warped housing policies that date back to the Second World War and which are intertwined with an infatuation with home ownership. They have caused the rich world's most serious and long. They have caused one of the rich world's most serious and longest running problems, longest running economic failures. A fresh architecture is urgently needed. At the root of this failure is a lack of building, especially near the thriving cities in which jobs are plentiful. From Sydney to Sydenham, um, fiddly regulations protect an elite of existing homeowners and prevent developers from building the skyscrapers and flats that modern economy demands. The resulting high rents and house prices make it hard for workers to move to where the most productive jobs are and have slowed growth. Overall housing costs in America absorb 11% of GDP, 11% of GDP, up from 8% in the 1970s. If just three cities, New York, San Francisco, and San Jose, relax their planning rules, America's GDP would be 4% higher. That's an enormous price. As well as being merely inefficient, the housing markets are deeply unfair. Over a period of decades, falling interest rates have compounded inadequate supply and led to um, a surge in prices. In America, the frenzy is concentrated in thriving cities. In other rich countries, uh, average national prices have soared, uh, especially in English-speaking countries, where punting on property is a national sport. The financial crisis did not kill off the trend. In Britain, the in Britain, uh, inflation-adjusted house prices are roughly equal to their pre-crisis peak, while real wages are no higher. In Australia, despite recent falls, prices remain 20% higher than in 2008. In Canada, they are up by half. The soaring cost of housing has created gaping inequalities and inflamed both generational and geographical divides. Mm, In 1990, a generation of baby boomers with a median age of 35 own a third of America's real estate by value. In 2019, a similarly sized cohort of millennials own just 4%. Young people's view that housing is out of reach unless you have rich parents helps explain their drift towards millennial socialism. And homeowners of all ages who are trapped in declining places uh, resent windfall housing gains enjoyed in and around successful cities. In Britain, areas with stagnant housing markets were more likely to vote for Brexit in 2016, even after accounting for differences in income and demography. You might think fear and envy. You might think fear and envy about housing is part of You might think fear and envy about housing is part of the human condition, but in fact, the property pathology has its roots in housing policy, in a shift in public policies in the 1950s toward promoting homeownership over renting. Homeownership. Since then, governments have used tax breaks, subsidies, and sales of public housing to encourage owner occupation over renting. Public politicians on the right have seen housing um, as a way to win votes by uh, encouraging responsible citizenship. Politicians those on the left, see housing as a conduit for redistribution and con- conduit for redistribution, conduit for redistribution, and for nudging poor households to build wealth. Those arguments are overstated.